and today we're going to be making a 3-layered vinyl iron-on t-shirt design called Be Kind. And it's a very simple design and very simple to put together, but it'll give you a good introduction to layering. So without any further ado, you will need to go to my resource library to pick up the template for this file, which is betsmakes.com/library. And once you get into the resource library, just look for the Be Kind files. You will download both the PNG and the SVG files. I've put them into a zip format for you. So without any further ado, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and let's get crafting. Well, here we are in Cricut Design Space, and today we're going to be working on this project called Be Kind. So we're going to start a new canvas. We're going to click on the upload button, and I see it doesn't show my upload, so I'm going to view all. There is one file you need to upload, and this one is called Vinyl Be Kind. So let's just click on it once you've uploaded it and click on Insert Image. Now this looks easy enough, but we're going to have to divide it up into different pieces so that we can put the whole thing together. So let's start by ungrouping, and let's select all the yellow pieces that you see here in the layers panel. So I'll click and shift click to select those yellow pieces. I am going to group those together, and I'm just going to slide them out of the way. Now we have the black back part of the body and the words Be Kind. We're going to select all of those together, and just look in the layers panel and you will see all of those, and we are going to group those together as well. But this time I'm going to attach them and just move it out of the way. The final two pieces we have here are the wings. I'll select them once again, and I'll just group them so I can move them around. You do not need to attach these because you're going to move them around when you go to iron them on. Now these wings can be done in any kind of material. I just used a pattern iron-on, a nice light color. You can use anything you want. So I'm just going to move the wings right out of the way because the next part is going to be really important. We have the Be Kind. Now we need to make sure that this piece always fits over, and you'll notice because I've attached it, it's gone behind. So I'm going to arrange it, and I'm going to send it to the front so that we can see that that fits. Now it's not that easy to fit it once you get to the iron-on. So what we're going to do is add a couple of little registration marks. And all I'm going to do is hit a shape. Now for this one, I'm just going to hit a small circle. It's rather large, but we'll just make it pretty small. Even smaller than that would be good. And we can pretend this is a bit of pollen. I'm just going to align it here at the top, put it right in that corner. And it looks like the position, I always like to go up here and hit the position so it's exact. So that's 4 by 2. Perfect. Now I'm also going to put a registration mark down here at the bottom. So I'm just going to copy this, come over here to duplicate, and we'll just duplicate it down here into this corner. The other one was 4 by 2, and this one we've got it 10, and we'll make it by 7, so it's absolutely in the right place. The reason I want to have those numbers is so that I can judge where it is. Now, what we have to do now is just highlight the whole thing. I am going to simply attach it, or I could weld it first so it's one piece. Well, I'm just going to attach it for now because I may or may not want that. Now, I don't want it yellow, but I do want it black because that's the color that's going to be in behind. Next step now is to move this over here, and it's behind again because we worked on it. Just going to add this, put it into place where we want it. It's pretty close, looks good. Now we have the 2 circles we put here. We need 2 yellow circles to go over top. So I'm going to click inside the layers panel, click and shift click. I'm going to duplicate these 2 and I am going to make them yellow. And I'm just going to move them so they're over top. Make sure they're in the right space. Now the position here should be 4 by 2, 4, tab, 2, tab, and that should go in the perfect spot. Now even though we've put them together, what I'm going to suggest you do, even though this is all grouped together, I want you to weld it. And what that does is it will keep it all together. Things will float around quite often, and your registration marks don't have to be exact, but close enough so that everything matches in your design. Now I can come up here and just move it around. It's all welded together, it's one piece. I don't need to attach it once it's welded. So let's come over here, make sure you save it. And I just saved mine as Be Kind 2. And now we're going to make it. Now, as you can see, your Be Kind is facing you. If I wasn't using iron-on, this would be okay. I could cut it in vinyl and just stick it on. But since we're ironing it on, it will be backwards. So let's come over here and click on Mirror. If we clicked on Mirror here, this next piece will also be mirrored. And finally, the wings, they will also be mirrored. That's really important when you go to cut something out. Now we'll just continue here. We've got the 3 different mats. You could put them on the same mat with a different cut of pieces if you wanted to. But right now we're going to select some material, and I'm going to show you some important things here. Now we want our iron-on. Now none of this is glitter iron-on, but it could be. I have patterned iron-on that I'm going to use for the wings, and that's the one I've got down here. For this one, I'm just going to use a vinyl iron-on. So it's not a foil, so I'm going to have to look for the iron-on. So I'm going to browse all materials. I'm going to search materials, ironed on, hit the search. Now it gives me everything I need to know about iron-on. So I might use an everyday iron-on for the black background, and I could use a different one on top. I actually used a pattern iron-on for the bottom piece, and then I used a heat transfer non-Cricut for the top piece. So you can mix and match, but you have to remember, once you've picked on something here, so patterned iron-on, I'll go done here, and it asks you to make sure your mirror is turned on, which is really, really important. It'll always tell you what you need. When you put on your material onto the mat, the shiny side goes down, so it only cuts the material and leaves the facing all by itself. So the shiny side is down on your mat. On the second one, if you need, I'll just click here. So we're going to cut the second one now, but the material is different. All you need to do is click on patterned iron-on and then come here and decide what you want. So you can browse again. I can come back up here again. And this time I said I was going to use a heat transfer non-Cricut. So I can select that and done. And that will give me a different heat transfer. And it's once again telling me to make sure my mirror is on, and it is. And we've done it for all of them, and it will tell you the tools you need. Now you're ready to go ahead and cut it. Click on the top one, so when you go to make it, you'll be able to put in the right materials. So I'll see you on the other side when we go to iron everything on. Okay, we're going to be doing a layered iron on, and we have our little bee with the registration marks. This is 2 layers, but we also have a layer of patterned iron on, and these are the wings that are going to go in behind. So we're going to do this in 3 different ways. But first, this is 100% cotton. And I realize that the more polyester you have, the easier it is for the iron-on. But to start, I want to make sure we get close to the center of where we're going to put this bee. So I'm just going to fold it down right to the V here so that I get a nice little crease here, just to give me an indication of where that center might be. So I'm just going to push a little bit of an iron. I have set the easy press for 340 degrees Fahrenheit at 50 seconds according to Cricut Design Space Heat Guide. If you go to the heat guide, you'll be able to find out exactly what you're looking for. So now, in order to work with this shirt, I don't want anything bleeding through. I'm actually going to put my heat pad in between here. So let me just raise this up. And I'm going to put it approximately where I want the design to go. Now, because this is a V-neck, I probably want 4 or 5 inches here. So I've got my ruler right here, and we can pick about 5 inches. So I want my design to be somewhere in this area, otherwise it's up around your throat. So I may push the pad down just a little bit more. There we go. And I can see where the center is. Now, this is a layered design. So what's going to happen is we're going to put the first piece on, and then we're going to start adding the other layers. Now I have 3 different things here. I have the iron-on wings, which I'm going to put on second. I also have the yellow of the bee here, and that's on a different kind of vinyl, the heat transfer vinyl. I'll pull that off. And then we have the bee kind itself. So what we want to do is approximate the center of this guy here. So the bee and the kind, to just give myself a little idea of where the center is, and try to match that center up with the center across here, that little iron mark that we gave. I also want to push him up a bit right to the top, as close to the top of the mat as I can get. Now, I have the pad over too far, so what I'm going to do is just push the pad over from underneath here. And that gives me a better way of putting it. Now, I'm going to be ironing this onto the shirt, but I've got my pad right underneath. Sometimes these designs will bleed right through. So what I'm going to do is just take a piece of cardstock and I'm going to protect my pad. Now let me just pull this off for a second. I'm going to place this underneath onto the pad. I'm not going to move anything else around. And that is just so I protect the pad and I don't get colors bleeding through. And that looks just fine. But I also like protecting the top of the design as well. So let's get this one placed again. We know that we are pretty good with the top of the mat. And here's our center point, and there's the center iron point that I had. These are little registration marks that we put in, and they'll be very useful when it comes to adding the second layer. So we're ready for this first layer. Once again, I am going to put a piece of cardstock right over top, and I'm going to add a little extra time for the heat to penetrate. So now we are ready for our easy press on the first layer. So just push this down, make sure we're close to the top here. I don't want to burn myself. That looks pretty good. We look pretty centered. And we don't have to work, it's called a firm pressure, so I am going to push down on it and we'll hit the little countdown. So I'm pushing it down, not extremely hard. My surface that I'm working on underneath is just a card table, so it does have some bend, so I don't want to push it too hard. Okay, there's the first one. I'm going to change the time here. Push it all the way down to 15 seconds and let it settle, and I know we'll get a few extra this way, and just push start. Okay, let's pull this off. And it says this one's a cool peel, so we're going to be doing this in stages. Just flip this out of the way, because the next piece we're going to put on are these cute little wings. Now, interestingly, with the wings, we had them pulled off another sheet, and I'm actually going to put them on differently. I'm going to peel them right off, and then I'm going to push this paper over top of it a little later, but right now I'm going to pull them right off. I just have to let this cool down a bit before I peel off the backing. So it's cooled down enough, and I'm just going to pull the backing off, and I'm going to be very careful. Just remember, you're going to be applying more heat to this. You just want to make sure everything stays in place. If it doesn't, just peel it off. Not to worry. Sometimes the lettering gets stubborn, but you want to peel it off carefully. And my shirt sometimes sticks. There we go. All right, we have the first part done. That looks pretty good. Now what we want to do are add the wings. Now the wings are pretty big, and they're going to cross over each other. So let's bring this down a bit. I'm just going to push this up a tiny bit so I can fit them in. Make sure we're at the top. These wings are going to cross over. Now this one's a little more difficult because it's like 2 layers at the same time. Now I did pull the backing piece off of it earlier. I am going to put it back on, and then I'm going to add our extra piece of paper again. So this is a little more complex than before. And that's at the top. We are going to hit our time again at 50 seconds. And then we're going to apply our iron. Now it's mostly at the top, so make sure it's at the top. And of course we want some firm pressure according to the guide. So now we've got the paper. We're going to remove that part of it. Remember, we had some other sticky parts underneath there, so you have to be careful when you peel that off. And the wings seem to be really nicely in place here. Watch my peel again. It's quite cool right now. As I said, you've got extra heat going on here. Now we've got a pair of wings. This looks really great. So, our one last piece that we want to put on here is going to be the part with the eyes. Now, the reason we had the registration marks, I'll just move it down a bit so it matches one registration mark at least. There we go. I like the lineup of this, and this is going to be slightly off, but that's kind. Now we've also going to have an issue with the top and the bottom parts being still exposed. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add an extra piece of the paper on top just so we get a good press on it. Now this one is a heat transfer vinyl rather than a patterned one, and I'm just going to look up on the site here. It's an iron-on design, so I want a heat transfer vinyl. And I have the mat, and we're going to apply it. It says 315 degrees for 30 seconds. So I'm going to have to change my dial. 30 seconds, yes. Okay, so it looks like we're ready to go. I have my pressure. We have just extra piece of iron on top. It may take a little while longer just because I want to be very careful. I always add, a lot of people will add some butcher paper, but I just use some cardstock. So let's get this into position in the center. I'm going to do a countdown, and it wants a light pressure, so I'm not going to hold it, I'm just going to hold it in place. Sometimes when you mix materials, the shrinkage is a little different than what you expect. So the registration marks won't work as well, but they will certainly act as a guide. Okay, let's just pull this off. And this one is also a cool peel. So let me just take this top piece off. And it's pretty hot right now. We still have our letters from before. It's pretty hot. It's me wanting to get in there all the time. So don't worry about this too much because that's already been placed on there. It seems to be peeling quite nicely. And it did shrink up a little bit, but not as much as the other one. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing more layers than what we have done here. Now, if you don't want this extra yellow dot and it's still warm, you can peel it off. I'm going to leave it because I like them. And there we are. This is a 3-layered with the wings and the body being in a pattern iron-on, and this is a heat transfer vinyl. And it gives you the great way to do some layers. Now this is a very simple project. You can get more complicated with them as you go. Remember to use the Easy Press heat guide from Cricut to find out exactly how you want your Easy Press to work. Now some people have asked me if an iron works well with these, and I'm sorry to say, but it does not. It can't hit the heat that you're hitting with this. And there's been several tests done on it. Now, once again, if you want to take these off, just heat them up and peel them off, and that will work extremely well. In the meantime, we finished with our Be Kind shirt. I hope you enjoyed this project.
Well, I hope you had a lot of fun putting this together. The only thing I might have done a little differently on this one is put the wings on first and then in behind the body of the bee so that the yellow parts don't look like they're floating in midair. But however, the design we did do and the iron-on part of it look wonderful, and those registration marks really make a difference. So until next time, don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, and happy crafting!